Hi, Godzilla Medicine, PlayStation and Medic Maniac YouTube. So I'm on my PlayStation 5 at the moment, and I've got Gran Turismo 7 on. And I'm inspired to make this video and just have a little chat because of some videos I saw by a YouTuber called Roflewaffle, who has done quite a lot of videos about Gran Turismo 7 and does some quite in-depth critiquing on driving games in general. Now myself, I've been playing video games since the Commodore 64, and I have a particular passion for driving games and motorsport in general. I've myself been to Silverstone a couple of times, I've been karting, I've played quite a lot of driving games from arcade, as I've said on my channel, through to simulation and everything in between. I drive all assists off generally, cockpit view, all of that with a controller. I don't use a wheel, and as I've previously done, I've got videos on my YouTube channel where I've had #1 times in the world on games like Drive Club and stuff. So I love motorsport and I love driving games, and you know, it's a passion of mine. I collect cars, model cars, and you know, videos about motorsport, etc, etc. I'm a car fan, I'm a motorsport fan. I was inspired to make this because I watched one of Roflewaffle's videos where he was critiquing the driving community and their input, you know, and their critiques of games, and saying as a community we've got to do better rather than saying this is rubbish. One of the things about driving games today, and indeed the state of gaming today, as in 23/24, is the connectivity to the internet. And the other backdrop to that is politics. So video games are a behemoth of the commercial enterprise, and a developer, a studio, isn't solely responsible for the game that you see and that you play and the opinions that you have. So for example, in the case of Gran Turismo 7, it's not down to Polyphony Studios. Developers today in the video game world work to the tune of the investors, the corporate monster, the politics behind that. That's why Gran Turismo 7, as well as showing cars here on these screens that it's doing right now, shows things to do with the world and the politics in the world. I don't agree with them. I could talk about them, but I would be censored, and that's a fact. And ESG scores. Games have to meet ESG scores. I noticed Roflewaffle critiqued the Need for Speed community and its views on the woke culture of, for example, Need for Speed Unbound. The ESG scores, I don't know if Roflewaffle, I don't know if you know companies like Vanguard and BlackRock, etc. I don't know if you know what ESG is. I don't know if you know what the World Economic Forum is. I don't know if you understand the politics and the nature of the financial leverage used to influence the input into video games to be consumed. I'm not sure if you're aware of these things, but you absolutely do need to be aware of them. And I commend you for some, you know, your research and stuff, but you need a broader perspective, not just of a developer. A game that you play, a game that you critique, a game that you enjoy or experience, it's not down to the development team. The development team are dancing to the tune of the financial input by the investors. And in the political backdrop, there is a lot of change in the video game scene that we have experienced as a video game community, and not just in video games. in the last few years. Games today, not only in terms of their model being either live service or with the DLCs, have changed considerably. And there has been a lot of kickback on woke culture. A lot of kickback very recently on things to do with sexuality and gender and everything else. And that is because the developers are not entirely responsible for 100% the product. That is because the financial leverage of meeting ESG scores from the political global scenarios affects the media that we consume, be it film, book, game, etc. So this is a video I was inspired to do by Roflewaffle for Roflewaffle. So if I can manage to get you to see this, I'm speaking directly to you because I can't communicate via typing on YouTube. I don't have that functionality. So I thought I'd do a little video just to speak about these things. I hear what you're saying, and indeed I've made videos to do with Gran Turismo to critique points that you haven't talked about, that reviewers certainly won't talk about, because reviewers are controlled and puppets of a larger industry to psychologically manipulate consumers into buying products, etc. These are facts. It's not fiction. So, yeah, there's a lot to consider. And like I say, I've critiqued Gran Turismo in ways to do with its tuning, and tuning in, and I mean tuning as in your toe and your caster and your camber and your differentials and your gear ratios, etc. Not tuning as in upgrades. They're completely separate. There's a lot I'd like to say about driving games. I've made some videos, so if I do find you with this video, that's good. And if you do check out some of my other videos, they're nowhere near production standards of yours. I get Share Factory and I get 15 minutes. But hey ho, it is what it is. So I've just checked for the video length that I made, and I've done about 7 minutes, nearly 8 minutes, so I've got a bit of time. So what I'm going to do is run you through some of the things that I wanted to talk about, that I've talked about previously. And one of the big things that I find with Gran Turismo 7 that won't be addressed, and it won't be addressed because the people who finance and fund the game don't want it to be addressed. I think we have to accept that games are never going to be as good as they once were. And I understand your critiques on what we think about games that we have played and the state of gaming today. Gaming has changed, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And either we will continue to be consumers, or we'll say enough is enough. But here we've got tuning on cars. Now what that means is that I'll just change my car to one that's relatable and not a race car here. So if I get into this one, I have two cars of this version, of this model, and two builds, and builds cost credits. So if you want to optimize a car in a build, you have to buy another model if you buy engine upgrades. I've talked about this before, because there are upgrades on your car that you can swap out and swap in, but you can't change other things. You have to actually spend more money to change them. For example, weight reduction. You can't just take that off if you've purchased it and then change it out like you could in the earlier Forza games. I don't know if the latest Forza game is like it, but Forza used to be great for that. You could buy 3 stages of weight reduction, and you could swap in and out which version of weight reduction you had on a particular build. Same with anything that you bought for the engine, the actual engine. If I wanted to swap these in and out, I can't. Once you buy them, they're on the car, which means you have to buy another car of the same model to try a different build on it. That fits into the economy. And now, one of the other critiques I have, talking about tuning, is that none of the games that I've played, not Gran Turismo nor Forza, wants to teach anybody how to set up a car, as in towcaster, gear ratios or anything, or how they affect things. So it means that a large portion of the player base will never use this, and will just use the stock settings that they get. If they do have a venture into fiddling with it, they won't understand how it works. That is taking away a large part of the game. So those are just a couple of critiques that I've mentioned. I've covered them in more depth in other videos that I've done. But like I say, if this video does find you Roflewaffle, then I hope it is of some use, and it's a critique on some of the things that you've said, as well as a critique on some of the, driving games. Take care.